Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fumbling Gurus, a podcast that talks about the NFL. And now to introduce your host, up in the upper left-hand corner, standing at 7 foot 3 inches, you have the one, the true, the Mr. Gannon.
How's it
In the
going?
top, in the top right corner, you have the Dolphins headquartered guy, Finn, or Jonathan, John. Yep, got it right. And you have the Beard Master, the Tampa Bay man, Tom.
How's it going, guys? All right, so we'll go ahead and kick off today's content. We're going to be going over AFC West, a pretty stacked division this season. I think we have some good teams to talk about. A lot of changes too that went on with this division. A lot of big changes, in some of my opinion. So a lot to talk about today. We may, be running a little long or have to get things in and within time, but we'll get there. But we wanted to start off, I think, with a little, maybe a little bit of major news today and yesterday too. So we had some big things coming out last 2 days. I guess we'll start off with, since I know Finn will want to jump into his Dolphins and everything. But we'll start off with Deshaun Watson, since that came out yesterday. It did get released that the independent investigation is recommending the 6 game suspension for Deshaun Watson. So effectively, a third of a season, with 25 allegations levied against the guy. We had passed around amongst us three some of the other offenses in the league and things that have been seen. There's 25 plus. I think it was Josh Gordon, 25 plus games for a weed infraction, etc. So it doesn't seem like the punishment is fitting some of the crimes here. So I'll pass it around the table if you guys have any other viewpoints, anything that you want to dive into with this in particular. But we are still kind of waiting on the NFL to see, are they going to add more to it? What's going to come down as the final litigation here. But Gannon, I'll throw it over to you if you had any other thoughts on that news coming out.
Let's see. 25 games for weed, 6 games for 25 sexual assault allegations. And that just speaks for itself. I'm so tired of talking about Deshaun Watson. He, but this after the 6 game, everybody will forget and he'll be talking to him like he's a player. And it sucks. I think he should have had um, more of a suspension than that, because of all the allegations, but
Mm-hmm.
that's NFL. So,
Yep. No, I definitely agree there. I don't know, a little disheartening to see that's what came out of it. John, I'll pass it to you as well for your thoughts there.
Mina Kimes, if you don't know who she is, she's a person who is on ESPN, and she's a very prominent female figure in the sports world and talks about the NFL. I thought she broke it down extremely well. She talked about the ruling. She read the 12, I believe, is a 12-page ruling from the investigator, and the investigator found that there was predatory remarks, that it was believed to be like this happened, right? Like this is what it said, that she found enough evidence to support her claims. By the way, this evidence was on 4 cases. We're excluding 20 cases because the NFL didn't talk to those other 20 cases. So we're only focusing on four of the girls. And the pattern was there. But the NFL has a policy in place that doesn't distinguish between violent and nonviolent crimes. And instead of saying that these are violent crimes, which they were, which they are, she said they were nonviolent and gave the maximum of 6 games. But she did go above her power by saying he is not allowed to get massages outside of the team's massage people group, whatever it is. And so it really seemed like she was saying, look, NFL, you don't have it in your structure for me to go further. But it was disheartening. It was kind of sickening. I expected at minimum 8 games. I was hoping for a year. And to only get 6 games really felt like a loss by the NFL.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that maybe, that point you hit on with there's just not the structure there. I mean, I know we've talked about, and, it's a little tie into what we're about to discuss with the Dolphins, but, um, there are allegations, similar allegations for owners within the NFL, for, people that are leadership positions that aren't players, and very few infractions have been levied against them. And then this occurs, and it's, I know that's been the big talk as well. If you hand down extra punishment to this player, well, what's going on? Why are we not doing the same for owners? Why is everyone not on the same playing field? We should be holding those leaders to higher standards than the players, and yet those are the ones we're punishing. So yeah, maybe that's part of the problem is the NFL just doesn't, and I'm sure that's got to be on purpose, right? Not, oh, we just don't have the correct rules in place to punish the players. Our bad. Let's go ahead and make those now that this occurred. They know that this is going to occur, and they don't want to hand out that punishment.
Roger Goodell has always been a guy that's had that ultimate power, and he's been willing to throw it around when he sees fit.
Mm-hmm.
And until now, until the NFLPA Players Association has really pushed back, he's not given up that control. And so he just kind of been willy-nilly throwing out punishments. I mean, as much as we want to make fun of Deflategate and how much did Brady truly know and want those balls flattened, the reality is it could have been the weather that had a large impact on that. And he got, was it 4 games, initially 6? Ben Roethlisberger had one accuser and got 8 games, reduced to 6.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have a player who was away from the team facilities, who made a bet, who made a wager on his team winning a game, and he is suspended for the entire year. It just feels gross. And then on top of that, the way his contract is structured, he was guaranteed $45 million no matter what happened. He's already getting $45 million. Period.
Yep.
He was given $1 million base salary, so his 6 game suspension is equivalent to less than $400,000, which means he will earn $45,600,000 to play this year.
Yeah, I don't know. It makes no sense to me. Like we're approaching it from multiple angles, and just nothing about this decision makes sense. So hopefully we get maybe a little more clarity, maybe a little more insight into what the NFL is thinking here, or moving forward, how they're going to change items like this to make it a little clearer for the people, the fans that enjoy the game and want to see, a distinct consistency to what's going on. But jumping off of that a little bit to into the news today, um, I could break this down, but I'm sure, John, you have a little bit more info than me, and I'll let you, I just dive into it. So go ahead and tell us, the news that came out today, and I know you're going to jump into some of your thoughts as well.
The big news, breaking news that happened today is the Dolphins got levied with massive penalties. The owner got hit with $1.5 million fine and is suspended until October 17th of this year. He's been kicked off of every committee that he is a part of, which included some of the gambling committees, revenue committees, etc. His number 2 guy, the one he's going to sell the Dolphins to when it's time to sell, Beal, he cannot attend any games this year, and he was also levied a $500,000 fine. The Dolphins lost their first-round draft pick of this year and a third-round draft pick for next year. And I said all of that, and you might have said, well, what in the world did they do? Well, it was not for tanking like the good old boy Brian Flores accused our owner of. Nope, they found that to be inconclusive and not accurate. We got hit. When I say we, the Dolphins got hit because they were tampering with players and coaches. Back in 2019, they were talking to Tom Brady before the season had ended, and some reports, or the report said beginning of the year on his final year with the Patriots. And then when he was with the Bucks, they also talked to him last year, trying to get him to be part of their organization. and as a possibility to also be a player, but more so to be the head and football president of the operations. And then they also reached out to the agent, Don Yee, who's the same agent as Brady, if I'm not mistaken, and talked to Sean Payton about him coming over to be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins before talking to the New Orleans Saints. It's not a good look. I will say this, and this is one of the things I do want to get out of the way very quick and very early. If the reason why Brady retired and the reason that Sean Payton retired was because of the agreement that they made with the Dolphins, then these fines and these suspensions and the loss of draft picks may not have been punishment enough. If they just simply talk to them to gauge interest to try to sell them on the idea, what are we doing, NFL? I mean, first off, the Dolphins were so bad they got caught and they didn't get their guy. Some people I saw on Twitter accused the Dolphins of being suspended and fined and penalized, not for doing it, but for being stupid enough to get caught. In some ways, it feels that way. The Buccaneers probably tampered to get Tom Brady. We know that the Eagles have tampered. We can go down the rest of the 31 teams. They have talked to players before they are free agents. The NFL a few years ago decided to open up a legal tampering period because teams were tampering. It happens. It happens across the league. It doesn't feel that it's any different other than two things. One, you have Brian Flores accused the NFL of being racist and bad hiring practices, and they needed a scapegoat. And oh, by the way, they have really bad publicity right now because of a suspension that was a slap on the wrist to a sexual predator, allegedly. So did this come out today to show, look, guys, we do take care of our owners and we do hold them to a high standard. And if they don't, we punish them unless your name is, Dan Snyder. Is that what went on? Because if that went on, come on, Goodell. I already don't like you. We really doing this? I'm going to send it back over to Tom. If you have any other questions, if I missed something, please elaborate. Please feel free to ask.
I think that hit on all the major points. I mean, I think this goes back to our conversation of it's just not clear what the punishments are for things. It's kind of like, oh, well, we'll just decide, like you were saying. Goodell's like, well, I decide this, and that's just what it's going to be. I think there has to be one transparency of that's quite a bit to take away those draft positions, to take away pretty much, the connections from the Dolphins to the league, right? And we're not even sure, like you said, of exactly what evidence they have. If they have evidence and they're gonna, fine a team and do all this stuff, we should be able to see that and make our own decision about being fans. Are we gonna support the team that did this, or are we gonna, now that we know the truth, want the owner to change, want the general manager to change, whoever's behind what's going on? I think that's something that. I don't know. When you're a fan of a team and you're spending your money to be a part of the organization and go to games and watch them on TV, etc., I feel like there's got to be a little transparency there in exactly what they found and what the Dolphins were accused and or found guilty of. Dan, and I'll pass to you as well for some of your thoughts. I know we were talking a little bit about the Eagles and some of things in the past from them, but I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so he did put out a statement, and he's basically in denial of both these things, which is fine. That's fine, as it should be. I mean, you're gonna deny it, it's cool. But he did say he didn't want to get in the way of the Dolphins winning season, which I respect. I mean, as the GM, you're not just gonna throw your whole team under the bus.
Owner. Yeah, I just want to clear. He's the owner, not the GM.
Oh, okay. The owner, yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure it was the owner that made that statement, but
it was. That's why I was correcting. You said GM. I just wanted to emphasize that it was the owner. I apologize.
Oh no, you're good. But besides that, $1 million was like $1 million, right? That was penalized.
1.5 million.
1.5 million and
That's
a first
so
round
much
pick.
for him. I mean, what is he gonna
I
do?
know, right? He could make that in like 30 seconds, though. Let's be honest.
It was
It's
1.8% of his total net worth.
so. I mean, at face value, us the poor guys are like, "Oh, that's a lot of money," but to him, he wipes his butt with that every day. So, I mean, that and the first round pick, yeah, that's gonna sting, but they could easily make trades and get a first round pick. I mean, I think they'll be fine. This will blow over. Like you said, I think it was just a cover up for the Deshaun Watson thing, but
Hmm. Yeah, it'll
Oh,
be interesting to see what the timing there of if anything else comes out of Watson, if they're trying to maybe shove him under the rug and hey, everyone talked about this thing over here, this new shiny thing. I think the next couple days we'll start seeing a little more of what the tactics are here. John, you're gonna say something else?
yeah, so there are 2 points I forgot to kind of add to that. The reason why I brought up the Deshaun Watson thing right at, Deshaun Watson and then this news, and I was like, why? That's fishy. When the ruling came out, the NFL has 3 days before they basically challenge the ruling to try to increase the suspension for Watson. So day one was yesterday, or today, I mean,
Hmm.
and the news gets leaked and broken today, not leaked, but broken today. The ruling came down today. It certainly feels like, oh, look, the NFL needs to do something. Hammer, hammer. So that's number one. The second part, something that Gannon said about the first round draft pick. It's really going to be sad for the NFL when the Dolphins pick in the top 10 next year because San Francisco does poorly and Miami still owns their first round pick. And the 32nd pick of the draft is eliminated because the Dolphins won the Super Bowl. And I will feel very good about sticking it to Goodell when that happens.
I'm sure we'll talk about that when we get to the Dolphins division there. All right. Yeah, I think we've hit the major points here. Again, it's brand new news from today, so I'm sure there's going to be more that we find out, and we may end up talking more about it next week as if there's anything else unearthed here. But yeah, definitely appreciate going into that, John, and giving us some info, and hopefully it does pan out that this was more a this was more a let's show what we can do and distraction than it is we find out more of what's going on behind the Dolphins scene there. Um, but yeah, we'll jump into what we're here for today with some of the division talk. So like I hinted at it and went into earlier, we're going to go with the AFC West this week. So we're going to be talking about the Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs, and Raiders, the main focus for today. So we're going to go over, a couple points about each team, things we felt the offseason heading into this season, things they may have fixed, things that they may not have focused on, and then jump into where we feel they're going to end up in the division, end up at the end of the year, etc. So yeah, we'll jump in. We're just trying to go. We'll go in alphabetical order today. So we'll jump off with the Broncos. Quite a bit of offseason changes for them. One of the two big changes, which I guess we'll start here, is going to be a new head coach with Hackett joining, and also Russell Wilson joining the team as the new quarterback. So I'll throw John. Who do you want to talk about first?
I would love to talk about Russell Wilson.
Jump into it.
I I think that Russell Wilson is a top five quarterback in the NFL. I also found something very, very interesting, and that is that when a coach and a quarterback come in to a team, historically, they win a Super Bowl within 5 years, or they don't win a Super Bowl. Well, we saw that with Brady. We saw that with Peyton Manning going to Denver. We saw that with Stafford going to the Rams. And now we see Russell Wilson going to the Broncos again. This is a team that was stacked defensively. They're a top 15 unit. I want to say they finished possibly in the top 10. I know that they had some injuries.
Hmm.
This is a team that's got young offensive firepower. They've got good running backs. They have a pretty solid to decent to above average offensive line. But what they were really lacking was the quarterback. And they went out and got a top five guy to run this team. I'm excited to see what Russell Wilson can do with an offense that is dedicated to Russell Wilson. Get out of that crap that happened in Seattle. I want to see Russell Wilson cook. I want to see what he makes. I cannot wait to see the extravagant, delicious meals that he puts out on our plates every single Sunday. I'm excited.
Oh, that was a bit more than I thought you were going to jump into there. I agree, and what I'm excited for is seeing Russell Wilson actually be able to be a quarterback. I think in Seattle the last couple of years, he was scrambling every down. You didn't actually get to see him sit in the pocket and be a quarterback. And I think we've seen it before with the connections like Tyler Lockett and some of the deep bombs that he had before. Um, I think he has the wide receiver core, the offense core that he needs to do that. And it's going to be very interesting. To your point, one thing I was going to bring up, and you already hit on it, was the quarterback changes. There's almost a precedence for quarterbacks that spend most of their career with one team and they transfer to a new team. So we're talking. There's a stat for you guys: a quarterback that has recorded 250 plus touchdowns with their initial team and then transfer to a new team. 3 out of 4 of those quarterbacks have won the Super Bowl the first year of their transfer. The only the only quarterback not to do that was Philip Rivers, which is still an amazing quarterback. But so I mean, that's kind of interesting stat that a quarterback that has been with one team and done really well with the team, but hasn't quite won a Super Bowl, transfers to a new team and immediately sees success on that new team. So it's definitely something to watch out for. Dan, and I'll pass to you for kind of the Russell Wilson aspect. Is there anything you're looking forward to there?
So you guys nailed the nail on the head with that one. The only thing I gotta say is going from the Seahawks to the Broncos is a huge change, and I think that Russell Wilson's gonna thrive on the Broncos with all those weapons.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I'd be excited to see too. Jumping into the second major change with Hackett joining as the head coach. There's a lot of talk of him working closely with Aaron Rodgers. He's coming over from the Packers as the offensive coordinator. He worked in Jacksonville. He led Blake Bortles. I don't know how he did that to one of his career seasons, right? I mean, this could be huge change for Wilson as well, having that guy as the head coach and that kind of offensive mindset that he has. So I think that'll be a huge change and something that'll impact Russell quite a bit as well. Anything in particular you guys want to hit it on with Hackett joining the team? Any concerns or anything you guys feel are going to be, a boon for him joining up?
I'm always concerned when an offensive coordinator makes their name with a with a great quarterback.
Hmm.
The Dolphins tried it with Joe Philbin. There's a long list of coaches that have done that and have failed. The question is, will he hack it? Yes, I was waiting to use that. I apologize, but I do like the fact that they got themselves this young, a kind of upshot offensive coordinator who is going to mesh well. He's going to give a lot of open concepts, and I really think that this is a good match.
Hmm.
I'm excited to see what happens in Denver. My concern is a new coach, a quarterback coming into a new system with, a lot of new pieces, a lot of moving pieces. Will they have time to gel? We saw the Bucks with Brady, how it took them a few games and a few weeks to kind of get going. We saw it with the Broncos back with Peyton Manning. It took him a little bit. I mean, he did light it up right away, but still he had to kind of his moments. And you wonder, with this division, will they have enough time to get rolling, or will they be behind the eight ball? You talked last week. We talked about. I said that this was a division that didn't get better, the NFC North. That I felt all teams either stayed about the same or got worse. Then I look at this division, and I think every single one of them got dramatically better,
Hmm.
except maybe one team, and even then, I still think they might have improved. So you look at that and go, can they falter a little bit at the beginning? That's my biggest question.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. And that's an interesting point with, offensive coordinators making the transition to head coach. One of the previous head coaches Denver had picked was Josh McDaniels, which, just joined the Raiders as the head coach this year. And he was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots and some other teams and didn't quite hack it for Denver. I think he had what like I think he started off really well in the first season, and then did I think he won 2 games after like the second half of the season, and then like 3 games the next season. Um,
He made the
so
playoffs with Tim Tebow.
yeah, yeah, he picked Tim Tebow to. So that's another questionable. I don't know. So yeah, maybe that's just the preference of Denver and some of the leadership is they want that offensive mindset. I'm sure with John Elway, et cetera, that's maybe more on their mind than other teams. But um, yeah, Dan, and I'll pass to you as well. Anything on Hackett or any concerns you see with the new head coach?
Uh, it, the fact that he's a new head coach, like coming in, you don't know what to expect. You got a new QB and a bunch of new rookies in there in the mix. It's going to be fun. I don't know really what to expect from the Broncos. I know they're going over 500 this year, so along with everybody in this division, I'm sure. So, something to watch out for.
Yeah, yeah, I think this team is definitely one that last season I think I remember us talking. They went like 3 or 4-0 to begin the season. And I was starting to get on the bandwagon, like, yeah, this is the year for Denver to finally start stepping it up. And then they lose, like, I think 6 or 7 games in a row. So I think that quarterback position is a lot of what we talked about being the problem. So it'll be very interesting to see how they do. So yeah, we'll kind of end the Bronco discussion with where you guys see them in the division, and if you want to jump into it as well, where you see them at the end of the year. This will be a hard division to pick, so I'll throw to John first. I'll let you start us off.
I have been debating on where to put the Broncos the whole day. I've been thinking about it all day because I could see them finishing first in the division and I could see them finishing fourth in the division. But to be fair, every one of these teams could be first or fourth, third. So where do I see this team? My heart tells me that the guy who I wanted the Dolphins to draft way back when is going to lead his team to a wild card spot and finish second in the division. I think they fall short of the Super Bowl. I question the defense. I know that they had a great year last year. I'm kind of cheating a little bit here, guys, but I see that they were eighth in total yards and they were third in points, which is great. But I just don't know if I can trust that defense. I know that Russell Wilson's going to be great, but when you have an explosive offense, your defense gets exposed more. And so I wonder, just with the new coach and everything, will they get off to a good enough start? And then how will they end the year? There's a lot of good teams in the AFC. So I do think they make the wild card. They might win a game, but I think they fall short of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a tough division. Man, I have them in third place. If I'm being brutally honest about the other teams, I think Denver just doesn't quite. I don't know. I don't know. Second and third. I flip flopped on this the whole day, but I'm gonna put them in third for now. And we talked about maybe by the end of the podcast I'll change my mind. Gannon, where do you have them?
They're all fools. They're going first. I'm just kidding. No, I think I'm agreeing with you guys. It's like third or second. I'm leaning more towards third if I had to choose, but it's just so hard because there's so many like unknown factors in this team. And so they could be really good, and then the other hand, they could just not click, and you see that on the field and
Hmm.
like coming forth. So I have a third.
Yeah, I think it's to me it's all down to Russell Wilson. I think there's no question he's an elite quarterback, but can he still produce that eliteness? Is he still there? Is joining a new team good or bad for him? Those are the questions that have to be answered. But yeah, we'll jump into the second team here. This team, I'm thinking might be the one Finn John is talking about some of the. So we'll have to dig into to maybe his thoughts here on the Chargers. But there wasn't a ton of changes they made, but I don't think there needed to be a ton of changes for them. Um, one of the things you were talking about head coaches. This is the head coach that is taking a different approach to football. He was going for it on fourth down. They were a team that went for it the most, and both during the regular and overtime periods of games. They're just not afraid to use that data to determine the best outcome for where they're at. Do you guys still think that approach will work this season? Do you think now that teams have a little more info on what they're going to try and how they're going to do it, this degrades some of what he's trying to do? Dan, I'll throw it to you first on your thoughts of his approach with the team and if you think this will still hold up this year.
It's hard to say. I mean, you have, you know, a decent draft with some new players. It's going to be kind of hard to judge where this team's going to be. Y- but you can't. Justin Herbert, man, he's something else. I Oregon boy. I have a little, you call it a man crush, you call it whatever you want. I like Justin Herbert. I'm a believer. This is my old team, so I have a little soft spot as well. I mean, I I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I was doing a little research on Justin Herbert. I don't know a ton about him. I didn't follow him too closely last season, and I saw a bunch of pictures of him with a farmer's tan. So that appears to be his claim to fame on the social medias.
Oh,
Um,
really? I didn't
but
like every one of those.
I'll send you a link. I got you.
Oh, sweet. Thanks.
But yeah, when I was researching too, I did not realize some of the stats from last season that he put up. One of the things I was going through, he threw for the only quarterback to throw for more yards than Justin Herbert was Tom Brady, which Tom Brady was throwing literally 99% of the downs last season. So it doesn't surprise me he was one of the top there. And you talked about touchdowns. The only ones to beat Herbert were Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford. So, coming in second and third in those categories for someone that is new to the league, still learning, the head coach and the dynamics there. I don't know. You're starting to see he could or is an elite quarterback at this level. But yeah, Finn, I'll throw to you as well with the head coach, his analytic driven approach, and if you want to talk about Herbert as well.
I sometimes wonder how he says the right words. He says he's analytic driven. He looks at the numbers. He talks about the numbers. But there are times where I've seen the analytic guys question his moves.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think analytics is part of the game. Even the old school guys still use some analytics. It's becoming more prominent in some of the younger coaches and some of the newer off style offenses. But I think the term analytics gets thrown around a little too much. I just said it about a dozen times already. It works. But because it works, it also doesn't work, and you're playing the odds. It won them a game and lost them a game against the same opponent, a division rival. I believe it was the Chiefs. Sometimes that it's things are going to work out in your favor and you're going to look like a genius, and other times you're going to look ridiculous and a fool and the dumbest man to ever play the game of football, to coach the game of football.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the approach. I tend to like being aggressive, especially when you have a young quarterback who is on the track to just absolute stardom. I will admit, go back 3 years ago, and I did not want the Dolphins to draft Herbert at all. I said no to Herbert, stay away from the guy. He has gone well beyond the expectations that I had of him, and he is a top 10 quarterback and very quickly moving up the list. Young, big arm, he's athletic, and it doesn't help that he has an all-star cast around him. They absolutely nailed their offensive line. They Austin Eckler stayed healthy last year and showed how great of a running back he can be. Their receiving core is amazing. I mean, the offense just works. But there were question marks with this team, and I know that we're going to be discussing it probably next. So I don't want to get too jump the gun too far here, but yes, I think this is a team that is going to be very tough. It's very challenging. They're aggressive, they're young, they're fast, and they're talented.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a awesome point. I was going to hit on that as well. That there is a lot of, like I said, I don't think they needed to make a ton of changes this year. They barely missed out on the playoffs last year. If you guys remember, they had the game with the Raiders where if they tied, they'd both make the playoffs. And there's controversy there because Chargers were kind of playing to win or lose. Raiders seemed kind of okay with letting the game tie. So maybe that was some of the analytics getting in the way there of, hey, if we just, if we let, I understand it's competitive. You want to be competitive, but um, when you already tie in regular time and go to overtime, at that point, I don't know, things get a little hairy. But they have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. Those are all star players, all pro players. So I think they have what they need on offense. I think the question for me is some of the defense. They were, I think, one of the lower on sacks last season, et cetera, pressuring and just getting help for the offense on that side. So, they did add Khalil Mack in the offseason and some other players to kind of shore that up, but was it enough? And, John, you talked about kind of jumping into this, so I'll pass it to you if you have thoughts of is the defense enough to help the offense on this team?
I love what they did. I absolutely love the signing of J.C. Jackson. I love the signing of a trade for Khalil Mack.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team that needed a veteran presence on defense, and they got a top five corner and a aging but still very, very good defensive end in Khalil Mack and a leader on that team. Did they do enough? Is going to be the question. I also have a tendency to believe that the Chargers have a little bit of a curse. I don't know what they did, but they seem to lose games in the most fascinating ways possible. Philip Rivers, I believe, would have had 12 Super Bowls had he been on any other team, but he couldn't even make it because bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the year, you're going to look back at this team and go, how did they miss the playoffs?
Yeah, I I agree there. I think it's partly due to the strength of this division. Um, I just don't think they're on the caliber of the other teams in the division, and it sucks because they're a good team. But any other, you put them in any other division, I think they're a first place team. Just not this division.
I think they challenged for first,
Uh,
but
it was a little bit of a hyperbole, John. It
okay.
wasn't. It wasn't.
Well, I immediately started thinking, and I'm like, would I put them in with the Ravens?
We don't need to get into the analytics here. Yeah, and Gannon, I'll throw to you as well for thoughts on the defense. Do you think that's going to hold them back this year?
I mean, I look back on the games that they played last year, and it was just like they're winning games, but are they? They're just barely winning those games. So I guess if you shore up the defense, it could help them out. I mean, like you guys said, they have killers on this team, so
Hmm.
anything's possible, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like to see a little more of that approach, the data-driven approach, and seeing how that works out from this year. Now that they have a little bit of more pieces to the puzzle there, does that change anything? But yeah, we'll round it out with where we feel they'll end up. Um, I guess I'll jump in here. I really don't want to put them in the fourth place spot, but I just don't see them on the caliber as the other teams. So I'm gonna have to put them at the bottom or near the bottom of this division. Gannon, I'll throw to you for your thoughts.
I hate it.
Yeah, I know.
I hate it. I have to put them at the bottom too. These divisions just so stacked. I just don't see. I just can't put them anywhere else. You know, yeah, third or fourth. Sorry.
All right, John is shaking his head. Let's give us insight here.
They're too talented of a team. They're too aggressive of a team. They're too young of a team. They're they're bad luck, so they're not going to finish in the. They're not even going to make the playoffs. They're going to miss the wild card. But they are not a fourth place team. This is a third place team. They're going to finish like 9-8, just miss out, and people are going to scratch their head and go, "How did you win this game but lose this game?" And I won't be shocked at all to see the head coach fired.
So you go into all that and then you put them up one spot.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I think
Uh,
there's a team that we have not discussed yet that is clearly the fourth team in this division.
All right. All right.
look,
Well,
we're gonna look back on this and we're gonna laugh at you. We're gonna laugh at you.
Flip it.
yep.
I'm gonna
All
clip
right.
it.
Yeah. Someone get in the chat and clip it for us. All right. Well, we'll jump into the third team here, the Chiefs. So this is a team, I think, for like the last 6 seasons has been first in this division. They have made some changes. They have, let's see, they lost Hill. I think that was the major one. I don't think there's Matthew as well. The safety, the defense major guy on their defense there. So some major changes, right? Hill's a huge loss for the offense, but they bring in some people to try and fill the gaps. The main one being Valdez Scantling. He's very quick, not as quick, clearly, as the fastest man in the NFL, but he could fill that gap. They bring in Juju Smith-Schuster, which he had a breakout season and on the Steelers, kind of retracted a little bit from that a little season last season, but he's still a potent wide receiver, and of course Mahomes, who is an elite quarterback for that team. And part of my question heading into the season is Mahomes the same with changes occurring? I think we've seen him with kind of the same core, the same people to rely on. What happens when that changes? I don't expect much, but there's going to be some change, right? He can't rely on dropping the bombs to Hill and letting him run by everyone for the touchdown. So, what does that look like? How does that change up the offense? I'll start maybe John, since Hill did go to the Dolphins. I'm sure you followed this a little closely, a little more closely than we have. But how do you feel those changes affect the Chiefs, and is it detrimental? Is it going to affect the outcome of the season?
When you lose the number one or number two playmaker in the NFL, you it's going to hurt your team. You cannot replace the production and the threat that Tyreek Hill was.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are they going to do? They're going to run a more conventional offense. And actually, believe it or not, I think this offense could be even better now that they are removing Hill. Not because they got rid of Hill, but because I felt that this team needed a crisp route running wide receiver. I thought Sammy Watkins brought that a few years ago when he was with this team. And then they lost that and they really didn't replace it. They had speedsters everywhere and Travis Kelce, but they lack that receiver that could just get open with their feet and not use the speed and run the route. And that's what Juju is. MVS is still a speedster. They still have that young kid, name's escaping me. That's a speedster. Not a Tyreek Hill guy yet, but he's a bargain bin version. And they still have Travis Kelsey. They still have a very good offensive line. They just got their left tackle showed up to camp the other day. That was big news for them. And by the way, did I mention Mahomes is still their quarterback? Trust me, this team is going to be just fine. Andy Reid is a top 3 coach. He's going to build this offense to their strengths, and I would not be shocked at all to see this offense be better than what it was, simply because they have more pieces, but it won't be as explosive.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm not too worried, mostly because of Andy Reid being on the team. I don't think anyone has the offensive prowess that he has. He not only creates the plays, but it's like who even thinks of that, right? So I'm not too concerned about it, but it is an interesting point. I've never viewed the Chiefs as someone that actually, like, of course they have a game plan, but when you look at some of their plays, a lot of it is just kind of getting someone open with speed, throwing it to them and letting them run past everyone with speed. So what does it look like when they actually have formation, when they run routes, when they get things? I get it. I'm not saying they didn't run routes before, but a little more structured offense. Is that good or bad for the Chiefs? Um, I'll throw it over to you, Dan. Thoughts on the loss of Hill? Thoughts on what that means for him this year?
Well, you guys seem higher on Juju than I am, but and losing Hill, that's gonna hurt no matter who you are, you know. Um, but one thing we're not talking about is the schedule. That is a hard schedule, and without Hill, you got to adapt. I don't know if this team can adapt well enough to win the same amount of games as they've been winning. I think you're going to see some regression here. Not saying that the Chiefs are going to suck. I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to do bad. I'm just saying that they're not going to be at the caliber that they were. And that's just my opinion.
Is this Cincinnati level regression, or is this?
I think this, yeah, Cincinnati level regression here. I had to take a page out of John's book here.
I was gonna say shout out to what I think the first week when we went over the Bengals division there, but yeah,
Still a playoff team. Don't get me wrong. Still a playoff team, but Super Bowl bound. I don't know about that.
yeah, it is tough. It is you don't know the impact of like John said, losing your number one playmaker. He single handedly marched them down field in the last 1 to 2 minutes of games to get that game winning field goal, game winning touchdown attempt, etc. But they do still have Kelsey, who has that same potential and ability. He did it multiple times in the playoffs.
The one problem though is there are players that defensive coordinators lose sleep over.
Hmm.
Tyreek Hill is one of those players that defensive coordinators lose sleep over.
Yep.
As good as Travis Kelsey is, and as much as you struggle to maybe game plan for him, he cannot completely take over a game by himself. Yes, he can do a lot of damage, but he's not the guy that's going to turn a 6 yard slant into a 94-yard touchdown. He's the guy that's going to convert that 3rd and 10, that 3rd and 8, but they're going to miss that. They're going to miss the speed and the threat. And even by sending Hill deep, it's going to create a softer zone coverage underneath, and you can slide someone under for a quick 6, 7, 8 yards. That's the stuff that they're going to have to try to replace. I It's going to be tough, but I believe in Andy Reid and I believe in Patrick Mahomes.
Hmm. Yeah, if there's any team that can recover and thrive from this, I can't pick a better one. So definitely agree there. we did hit on a little bit. I don't have any major points here, so I'll kind of toss for you guys. But one of the things that can help them is stepping up the defense. It wasn't an elite defense last season. They did spend a lot of their draft picks helping this out. 4 out of their first 5 picks were defensive players. So I think that's been a lot of their focus. I know they have the offense kind of in place. So I think that has been what they've tried to step up and potentially this year take it to the next level. But any comments from you guys on what you expect from the defense or anything that you see as potentially a problem there?
Anna, go ahead.
So, gosh, as good as that offense is, you need a defense to match. And if you bring in a bunch of people to beef up that defense, what do you get? You get a better team, right? In theory. So, I mean, but you lose so much players on offense. I don't know. I don't know. I'm at a loss. I think they do. I think the defense gets better. Offense is worse. So I don't know where that places them though. So
Their defense is their Achilles heel. Their defense has been their Achilles heel. And I don't know if they did enough to secure it and make it better. Losing Tyrann Mathieu, losing Mr. Honey Badger to the New Orleans Saints, that was a big loss. That's a big loss from the leadership standpoint. That's a big loss from a player standpoint. I mean, he's a top 5 safety. I mean, he's really, really good. And that's going to have an impact. I wonder if having a more ball controlled, normal, putting quotes around that, offense doesn't help their defense out a little bit by just giving them a little bit of a breather, giving the opposing team a few less possessions. Assuming the Chiefs can still score at a ridiculously high efficiency rate, they'll be all right. I I think that they're good enough, they're going to be well coached enough that I don't sit here and doubt the Chiefs. I don't expect much of a regression. I don't expect any regression. I think this is still one of those teams that are in the thick of things and are still the class to beat. They're still the team that you look at and you pencil and circle and go, this is my test to see how good my team is.
I give you that.
They have the potential for sure. So it seems, John, if we're jumping into where we see these teams, you said no regression. So they're still going to be number 1 division, AFC Championship game. That's where you see them.
If they don't make the AFC Championship game, I don't necessarily see it as regression. Like when I say regression, I don't necessarily mean, oh, they didn't meet the standard of where they were. When I said that the Bengals will regress, I didn't mean won't be in the Super Bowl. I just meant that they're not going to be the quality of team.
So
With that said,
now we're getting
Yeah.
the fine
Paddling it
print.
back.
The fine
Paddling
print.
it back.
however, I would not be shocked whatsoever to see the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. I do believe that they are the number 1 division in this division. I don't think they will be a 1 seed. I think they might be a 3 or 4 seed, which will make getting to that championship game harder. Why? This is a tough division. I don't think they're going to sweep this division and get 6 easy wins. So I think they're going to have to work hard. Would not be shocked at all that 11-5 or 11-6 or 12-5 is enough for the 1 seed in this division. It's going to be tough, but I still think the Chiefs are the team to do it. Which, if you've done the numbers there's a team that I say is the worst by a decent margin. We still haven't talked about.
All right, we're about to. Yeah, I definitely have them in the 1 and 2 spot as well. I see them more than likely as a number 1 spot for this division, so that's where I'm going to place them. There are questions, but I mean, you have an elite quarterback that it seems the sky's the limit for him, right? So he'll find a way to win if he's the quarterback that he has been the last couple of years. Gannon, do you see them in the same spot?
I agree. Yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle though. Like I could easily put them in 1 or 2.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And one thing we didn't hit on, I'll leave this for maybe our viewers can add in some comments here. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I don't know. He has to step it up this year, I think, for them to be the elite team they've been. And I don't know if he can. They brought in Ronald Jones, but I feel like he's kind of the same image as CEH, the same type. He's in the same kind of place in his career, in my opinion. So I don't think that was really an upgrade for him at all or anything that'll assist too much. But just something to chew on there. I think the running back position might be their Achilles heel for their offense, like we were talking about. But yeah, we'll jump into the last team here. John seems to have some strong opinions about this team. I'll let you start us off. What do you want to talk about them first?
Two things. A coach and a quarterback, to me, is where I stack up teams. And I'm going to start with their coach. Tim Tebow, and a very poorly run organization when he was with Denver. It was bad. He was so bad, he went limping back to New England. And he's been their offensive coordinator since. Some had speculated that he was going to take over the New England Patriots when Belichick decided to step down. And that he had passed teams. He had even talked to teams and then at the last second denied that team. Because this was where he was going to be. And now all of a sudden, he's taking a playoff team and he's now the head coach where he failed before. Has he learned from his mistakes? I hope so. But has he? We see that coordinators from New England have a tendency to fail. They fail and they fail. There's a couple that have done all right. Look at the Tennessee Vrabel. He's done good. But Matt Patricia failed, and there's a whole long list of them. And then I look at Derek Carr. I don't trust Carr. I don't like him. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I think he's a Kirk Cousins style quarterback. And when you pair up the coach that I have huge questions with a quarterback that I have huge questions with, I look at this team and I say they're a clear-cut bottom seller team in this division.
I don't know. I can't get behind everything said there. I do have the same questions for the head coach. I just there's too many I guess you can call them red flags. They're like orange flags right now. Too many flags out there that are like I don't know. There's a lot of questions here. I definitely agree. Why this opportunity? He passed up, I think it was the Colts when you were talking about some of the head coach position. He passed them up to become head coach after his first shot at Denver. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him, but I do have to disagree about Carr. I think Carr has the ability. He's never had a team behind him to help. He's had some receivers in the past. Renfro stepped up last year, etc. He had Ruggs for a third of a season last season, and you saw kind of what he did with, maybe an elite receiver there. But he now has the best receiver in the league, theoretically, and a guy that he's played with in college, a guy that he remains in contact with since college. They know each other. They essentially can hopefully communicate well and not have to grow that relationship from the beginning, right? They already have one. And Carr does not get the love he deserves, I feel like. He was ranked 5th in passing yards last season. He has it in him. And if you watched the Raiders games, he single-handedly marched them down the field for game-winning drives 6 times. With who? Who's helping him out? Maybe Waller, tight end spot. Who else does he have? Josh Jacobs, maybe. I think Carr has it in him. I think they're going to surprise people this season. I'm excited to see what they can do. Gannon, whose side are you on?
just, you know what? I'm 100% on your side, Tom.
There we go.
I just can't get down with the fact that he thinks Carr is that bad. We talked about Matt Ryan and consistency. That I'm not saying he's Matt Ryan, but he's very consistent. You got to give him that. Like, I don't know. And just adding the number one wide receiver, like it makes sense, you know? It makes sense. And you're gonna put him on the bottom? How? I don't get it.
A the draft that the Dolphins absolutely obliterated when they had three first round picks. The Raiders had three first round picks. Two of them are in jail, I think. It's not good. At least one's in jail. They don't have a super deep team. Josh Jacobs is the running back. You can have him. I'm good. He's not that good. I like Kenyon Drake a lot more. He's dealing with injuries and is getting a little older. Yes, they added the best receiver in football, the guy who runs the crispest of routes, Aaron Rodgers' security blanket. We're gonna find out just how good Devontae Adams without having Hall of Fame quarterback throwing the ball to him. Now, he did say having a Hall of Fame to go into another Hall of Fame, there's an adjustment. So he's kind of used Carr in a high regard. We'll see, but I don't hold Carr in the same high regard. He's more of a Camry versus the Bentley that Mr. Adams is used to.
I mean, it's hard to argue that. I agree that Carr does not have the credentials Rodgers has so far, but I think it's in him. I think he can get there. All right. The last. Go ahead. Someone can jump in.
They made it to the playoffs, Finn. Your team didn't. What do you mean? Yeah, they had three first round picks, you know, two of theirs are in jail. They didn't even have an offense. Like, and they still made the playoffs. I don't know what your excuse is gonna be, man. With Derek Carr, somebody here, you're just like, rah. Okay? Alright. So just want to get that out of the way real quick.
We can come back to this, and when I'm right, you can apologize. That's all I'm
I'm
going to
not
say.
gonna apologize. I'm not. No.
All right. There are two more things I had to discuss here, and I'll let you guys jump into anything else. But one thing I wanted to hit on, we don't really have to jump into it, but there were a lot of off-season issues for this team last year. Not off-season, off the field issues last season. There was, head coach resigning. We had, of course, the car crash and with Henry Ruggs and the jail time and everything there. There was quite a bit going on, a lot of controversy with this team. They did have a team president that turned over from, I guess there's an open investigation. It seems like NFL loves those investigations. But the previous president was fired. It was stated for retaliation of opening some concerns of a hostile work environment that he was hearing from employees, etc. Did open for a good opportunity. Sandra Morgan joined. She is the first, black female team president in the NFL. So it's good to see some diversity there and an opportunity to have that, precedent set for some other opportunities within the league. But just a lot going on for them last season that shouldn't have been going on. So it'll be interesting to see if they're a little more focused this season, can kind of get down to business that they may have been off from last season. But another interesting tidbit is they didn't pick up Josh Jacobs' rookie contract as his extension there. So I don't know. It's interesting to me because I felt like he's a good fit for the team. He's, he has trailed off from some of his numbers the years before. He's kind of regressing a little bit, but I always felt it was a good option for the team and a good fit there. Those are kind of things I wanted to hit on. I don't know if you guys wanted to jump into any of those points, but those were kind of my main areas to focus on. Anything else you guys wanted to hit on with the Raiders or, dive into anything that I mentioned as well.
How do you lose your coach midway through the season and still make the playoffs? I don't understand.
I, yeah,
It's crazy.
Sometimes adversity brings you together. When, how often is something tragic happen and the team, a player will play the next day, whether it's the passing of a father or whatever it may be, and they play at a high level. I think some of that's what happened with this team. Their head coach got fired. They dealt with their players being arrested, getting in severe crashes, and all this other stuff, and they kind of bonded and they grew together and they had their interim head coach and they fought for him and they made the playoffs. And now they don't have that. So now they've got this emotional drainage that they got to release in the offseason. And will they come together again? They will have a more stable year. I will give them that. McDaniel will have them, it'll be a lot better of an environment than what they currently dealt with. Hopefully, it's better than what he had in Denver, because what I remember reading reports on that it was not a very well organized and well run machine. But we'll see. Again, maybe he's learned his lesson. The running back situation, let's face it, you just don't pay running backs big money. It's just not worth it. I think that boils down to it. If you look at his yards per carry, it's gone down every single year. He's not that much of a pass catching back. They spent big money on uh, the running back I just said, on Kenyon Drake. I think it's safe to say that they looked at him and they said, good player, but not a great player. I'm not going to sign him to whatever that fifth year contract is, like 17, 16, 15 million. All guaranteed, by the way.
yeah. I don't know. I don't see where they go in the running back position from here, but yeah, just
They don't,
something to note that they don't, I guess, see him necessarily as integral to the team, like you're saying.
but keep in mind, I mean, they still have him this year, and if he balls out, they can always pay him money. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a gamble not to pick it up, but it's also a gamble to pick it up. And they're willing to say, bet on yourself and see what happens. If you fail, then
Yeah.
that's on you. And if you do well, you'll make money either through free agency or with us. So I don't look at that and worry about, oh, what will they do next year? That's next year. I mean, they've got the draft, they've got free agency. You never know. They've got a guy on their practice squad that maybe lights it up. It's hard to say. One thing that I do want to mention that I did forget to mention when we talked about the Broncos, and that is the unfortunate news today out of camp. Tim Patrick, their third string receiver, who's a pretty good player, suffered a season ending knee injury.
Hmm. Yeah, actually, just I don't know when that came out because I was looking at him today and I was like, man, he was not on my radar, and I started looking at some of his stats from last season, and he was a pretty big part of that team.
I saw it skimming through Twitter today. I don't
Hmm.
remember what time, but I believe it was this evening.
Yeah, it's interesting. Definitely sad to hear. Yeah, as we're talking about some injuries around the league for real quick, we did just lose Tampa Bay center this week, Jensen, with a knee injury as well. I don't think they've released exactly, information on what the injury is, but it's multiple months, if not season ending. So uh, we'll definitely be looking for a replacement for our center. Um, yeah, well, I guess last point in which I think you can kind of process of elimination know where everyone is going to place them. But John, I guess I'll let you kick us off with why you see them as the best team in the division.
I see them finishing fourth.
Fourth, I don't know. I don't see it. We're definitely gonna clip this and make sure that we come back
Yeah.
to some of the
Oh
info
yeah.
here.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I have them. What that leaves me with second. I think them and the Broncos are like second and third. What's going to happen between those two teams? But yeah, if I had to pick a place today, I'd put them in second place. I think they have the potential and the elite people in the right places to do very well. Gannon, what about you?
I'd have to do the same second. I think that it's a question mark, definite big question mark as a coach. But I mean, how can you argue with Devontae Adams, being on your team?
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps up the teams, the division. We've gone through each one and said our piece about where we feel they will end up this season. So let us know, what you guys think as well. Do you see them in the same positions we do? Do we make a wrong call here you want to correct us on? Feel free to let us know what everyone thinks. And we'll go into kind of our last word here, something we let everyone and for today's podcast, go into something that's a little bit out of topic for the day. Or you can stay on topic as well. But John, you can kick us off.
Hot outside. Stay hydrated.
Love it.
Definitely. Dannon?
You know, with football season right around the corner, so is fantasy football. And I am not picking Juju. He's not on my team. Y'all can have him, staying away from him.
Good to know. That's good info heading into our draft upcoming. I like it.
Yep. You can take him.
All right. I got to be host today and talk about all the things that I wanted to talk about. So I don't really have much as a last word here, but appreciate everyone tuning in. It was fun as always. Thank you guys, Dannon and John, for joining us and talking about your opinions. And we'll go ahead, sign off for this week, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday and cover the next division. So appreciate it. Bye, everyone.
Hey.